I hate these things. I hate removing tubeless tyres. Loud noises! Okay, so what we're going to be doing today is establishing a tubeless setup on my Fesca 1 using the Vittoria Corsa Pros with the tan walls. The reason why we're doing this is because when I initially set these up, I made a mistake in running tyres that were marginally too wide for my chain stays. And initially what I'd done is I'd measured based on the seat stays, thinking that would be the narrowest point of the bike. But in fact, it is the chain stays. And so a word to the wise, if you are looking at setting up your tubeless tyres, make sure that you measure these based on the chain stay width instead of the seat stay width, because that's where you're going to get the rub. And what was happening was in normal running, there was no issue, but when flexing, there was rub on either sides. Whenever I was putting the hammer down, this was causing the tyre to wear, and it was also causing some superficial rub on the frame, which I was worried could develop. And so as a result, we're changing that. The reason why I wanted to address this initially is on my old setup, I was using Vittoria airliners, and I tried to transfer those over, and I made a massive blunder that led to a lot of frustration on my part and a lot of anger towards the Vittoria tyre liners or airliners themselves. And this is 100% on me. So I was running airliners that I thought were for 28s, but in fact they were for 30s. And so you'll see later in the video, I have to cut these out of the tire. That's on me. That's not on Vittoria. Now I will give my thoughts at the end of the video on the airliners themselves. So we'll get to that a bit later, but the parts in the video where I am frustrated at the airliners, know that should have been frustration directed at me. I've talked to the Vittoria company and we'll get to that at the end. But I just wanted to address this at the start so you know what you're getting into. I stuff up and yeah, it's 100% user error here. So anyway, without further ado, let's get stuck into the video. Okay, so first off, I apologise, but there may be a sound in the background of this. Essentially, my wife's sick, and so while I'm making these videos, I have the baby monitor on in the background to hear whether the twins start having a cry. So if you can hear that interference in the background, I apologise, but also get over it. Twins are hard. So starting off, if you've never gone tubeless before and you're watching this video because you're thinking about doing this yourself, you're thinking about doing it at home in your own garage, know that it's a great idea and I strongly recommend it, but also at the same time, it is a punish. And you will likely stuff it up the first time. In fact, you'll probably stuff it up the second time, and there's a high likelihood that you will stuff it up the third time. It is a process of learning the ins and outs. And what I'm hoping to do in this video is give you some of the tips that I have learned across I think I did about 5 attempts at trying to get this to seal 100% effectively, no major leaks. And the one thing that you will learn, I mean, these have been going a week and they're pretty well pumped, but your tubeless tyres will leak. You can't leave tubeless tyres for a week and come back and ride it at the same pressures, which you normally can do with a tube. You can normally expect that a tube might drop maybe 5 psi over the course of a week. And also with tubes, you're pumping it up to a significantly higher PSI. So if you're running sort of 80 or 90 PSI and it drops down to 85, 75 PSI, it's not a huge difference. But if you leak 10 PSI from tyres that you're running at 60, which I'm running on the front, all of a sudden you're down to 50, and that is a significant difference. And you do get a much squishier sort of feel in the bike. So know that the journey that you're about to embark on is not a simple one. And know that it will be one that you will probably swear about, you'll probably regret it, and a big part of you will just want to take your bike to the bike mechanics. In order to do this, you need a couple of tools. Now, if you have a chain on, you're going to want these two tools, because you're probably going to want to take your chain off. This might take you a couple of days and you don't really want your chain hanging off your chainstay. So I recommend removing the chain, and in order to do that, I use a, what are these called, a chain hook and your chain splitters. You're going to need one of these. A triple B is the one that I've got. And these are just your wrench for all of your I actually don't know what these are called, BB30, no, that's bottom bracket, I don't know. Anyway, they're your wrenches, whatever, and a chain whip. You need these because you need to take off your disc brakes if you're running discs, which if you're not, run discs, and you're going to need to remove your cassette as well, because you don't want the sealant getting into your drivetrain. That is a big no-no. Now, you are going to want another tool as well. Different people offer different advice about this, but I think you're nuts if you're not using this. So, one moment. So I use a Stan's no tubes injector. You can get a bunch of different ones for this. Basically, this goes over your, this shows how impulsive I am. Basically, as I'm doing this, I'm thinking of all the new tools that you are going to need. This goes over your valve, and you squeeze the sealant in. It's got a measurement on there. Stan's No Tubes recommends it for their sealant, which is what I use. You go to 60 mils or 50 mils, makes it super easy to measure. Now, I use these muck off valve caps, and the reason I use those is they come with a valve core remover. You will need a valve core remover tool, and if you do not have that, Stan's No Tube sells a good one as well, which just goes over the top. That's the hole there, and you seat it on the valve and you unscrew it. Now, they're the tools that I recommend. So again, chain hook, chain splitter, wrench, chain whip, and your injector and your valve core remover. So with that, we're going to do a bit of a time lapse to strip the bike of the old tires, and then we'll jump into the video. So yeah, let's go. Actually, just for those who are interested, this is the valve core remover in action. So you can see that hole there, and it goes over the valve here, and it just works like a spanner if you hold the actual valve. And there may be tubeless leakage when you do this, so obviously bear that in mind. And then we are, there we go, valve out. So the thing that separates average bike mechanics from just your guy that does it every day is remembering which way a chain whip goes. I always forget, and I think that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to do all of the next step off camera, but basically that is the removing of the tyre and the prepping of the wheel or the rim for the new tubeless setup. So all the hosing off of the old sealant, all of that stuff. I don't think it's technical, I don't think you need to see it, and it's just going to protract a video that is probably going to be long enough with all of my stuff ups anyway. So we will be back when this is all sorted out. So in case you're wondering why I'm not showing the removal process, that's because it is a cunt of a thing, and I hate removing tubeless tyres from tubeless rims, and I'm almost losing the fingernails on my hands, and I'm so angry, and that's why I'm not showing the removal. So if you are wondering whether this is easy or not, it is not. Okay, so also, some of you may be wondering whether the Vittoria tyre liners are worth it, and the short answer is no. The long answer is yes, but the short answer is no. Even just to remove your tyres, you have to unseat one bead, run the entire bead into the center of the rim so that you can remove the basically inflated inner tube of that tyre, which you have to do by basically taking this side off. You then have to pop that inner tube out. And then once you've done that, you have to do exactly the same thing in reverse. So are they great when they work? Yes. Would I love to see a way to practically do this that is effective and not like the best case scenario on the Vittoria websites? Yeah, I would, because I hate these things, and if I hadn't paid for them, I would have chucked them out. This is just the process of getting them out. And yeah, that's not exaggerated force. Okay, so again, if you're thinking that this is a good idea, just word to the wise, I've tried to do this as best I can. I've used gloves, I've used towels, things like that. I don't know if that's showing up, but you may be able to see a significant bruise at the top there, and that's from lifting the nail off the bed. Yeah, this is not for the faint-hearted. Alright, so some decisions you spend years making. Some decisions take hours. Some decisions take a lifetime. But after almost removing my fingernails, trying to seat this, after almost removing my fingernails, trying to apply or trying to remove this, I have decided that I am going to give the Vittoria tyre liners a complete miss this time. And yeah, we're just going to go without. I'm sure with the Vittoria tool, they're easy enough to seat, but these are Vittoria tyres that I'm trying to place a Vittoria tyre liner into, and it has been an absolute nightmare, and I just don't understand why you would create something that doesn't even work with your proprietary tyres. So now I have to deal with the massive fuck around that is trying to get them out again. Okay, so joy to the world, for the Lord has come, and we have finally managed to get one tyre on. And you may at this point be rushing to get your tubeless sealant and place that in there, but I would say to you, wait, because what you should be doing instead is pumping up without the sealant. Now, this can be a bit of a cardio session, but we're gonna have a go here. So having some issues with getting that to seat, and that was expected. And so the first little hack is to get your tyre lever and catch the bead of one side and run it so that it almost pops off. And what this does is essentially seats the tyre on one side. So you want to keep your hand there, and you'll see the tyre starts to distort a little as it seats. You want to keep your hand there to make sure that it actually stays, and you don't want it popping off. That snap is the sound of the bead seating, and you can see it's been effective in some places and not in others, but you can see already that that is tighter. So we're going to have a go again. Alright, so this is what I was trying to demonstrate yesterday. I had to walk away from the project for a bit and come back because it was doing my head in. But I have gotten this to seat without any sealant in it. So one of the myths about tubeless is that it requires the sealant in order to seal, and that's not the case. The sealant is supposed to seal any holes that come up as you're riding. You should be able to get a complete seal without that. So good thing about doing this first is it allows you to see any potential areas where there might be some leakage that you might need to fix. It gives you an idea of whether your rim tape is well done before you go and put your sealant in, because if your rim tape is not effectively applied, you'll get leakage out of the spoke holes, and that's what we're going to find out here. So little trick is you get your degreaser as a spray. Most of them come in this sort of fashion. What you're going to do is you're going to spray around the entire circumference, and this is going to show to you whether you've got any leaks, because what will happen is that will bubble. Now, it's not unusual to get a little bit of bubbling around the cotton sidewall, and that will just fix with some tubeless sealant. But aside from that, this is looking good. The main place that you need to be concerned is at your valve. That's where a lot of your leakage is going to come, and I think we're pretty golden, so we're probably good to hose this off. Might give it a wipe down first. But yeah, this one is ready to have some tubeless sealant applied. The other one, I'm still trying to get the tyre liner out of. Alright. Sometimes the mark of a real man is just knowing when to step away, and the rear tyre, I've managed to get the Vittoria tyre insert out, but now I can't get it to inflate, so I'm going to have to go to the local bike shop and purchase CO2 canister, and I've been advised that that might give it the juice, the get up and go. But what we're going to do while waiting for that is do the tubeless insert. So we might get the camera down a bit lower. So, like I said, I use Stan's No Tubes tyre sealant. It's not the thickest tyre sealant, and you may choose to go with a different one, and that is personal preference. I found this to be satisfactory without absolutely blowing my mind. There are other ones that are more highly recommended, and I can't vouch for that one way or the other. It's just it's the one that I've always used, and I'm not unhappy with it. So we're going to fill this up. First off, I'm going to get a towel. Whoops. So this can be a little bit messy, and this tyre injector certainly helps. So what you want to do is you want to fill it up to 60 mils. And then, as you take it out, you're going to want to wipe it and then bend it so that that tyre sealant doesn't just come out everywhere. Because this is the part where it gets a little bit messy. So you then need to screw it on to your valve. And as you do this, you're going to want to twist, because that little tube is going to become coiled. So you're going to want to twist with that till that's fully tightened. Wipe that off. You're going to want to invert the tyre. Now, if you've already sealed this, which I have just by pumping it up without the sealant in, this won't or shouldn't leak. So you just squirt straight into the tyre like that, and then to remove you invert the tyre. So you want the tyre facing up, and again you bend that nozzle and you unscrew and twist your injector so that the tube doesn't become tangled. And if you've done this right, all the sealant should be sitting for the most part at the bottom, though you will still want your towel. And you should get minimal leakage from the top, particularly now that we're not using those tyre inserts. We're gonna put the cap back on there. What did I do with the cap? There it is. So it comes with a cap to seal that off. It does recommend cleaning these in between each use, and confessions time, I've never done that, but the sealant does definitely wear away at things, and it's wearing away at the rubber on that band, so it's not a bad idea. And then all you need to do is reinsert the valve core. And for this, you'll notice I'm using the Stan's No Tubes valve core remover tool, just to show you how it works. Cool. And now we're just going to go pump it up. So okay, so there we are at 60 psi. Once you have it fully inflated, what you want to do is just sort of bounce it to get that sealant mixing around and moving out to fill any of those gaps. Hopefully we come back with a tubeless ready tyre. Gravy. Okay, so you may be watching this because you're trying to work out whether you should go tubeless. And if that's the purpose for you watching this video, then the answer is pretty simple. And it's yes, absolutely. You should go tubeless. It is lighter, it is better in regards to puncture resistance, and the ride is significantly smoother than it is with tubes, just down to the low PSI pressures that you can run, or bar for those of you who use weird metrics. However, some of you may be watching this because you're wondering whether you should do a tubeless setup yourself. And the answer to that, probably no. It is extremely frustrating to do a tubeless setup by yourself, and it requires a certain amount of know-how that, honestly, probably better just done by your local bike mechanic. However, if you are inclined to do it, let's have a look at some of the things that I've put on here and take some lessons from my mistakes. So, the last reason I think you're watching this is to find out whether it's worth running the airliners. And it's a contentious issue because, yes, I can see a reason for these and I can see a value, but I don't personally believe these are a product that align with the kind of cycling that I'm doing at the moment. So, where are these products potentially useful? If you have a race wheel setup or you're racing regularly, then you should run them if you're running tubeless. You're rarely going to change your tyres because you're only using them for racing, and so as a result, your likelihood of getting a puncture and having to struggle with the airliners to get them off, change your tyre, is minimal. And as a result, yes, they'd be a great idea to include because they prevent you having a blowout, causing a crash in a bunch,
and wiping out the entire field. It's just something I don't want on my conscience. However, if you're just doing group rides like I am at the moment, I've got the kids, I'm not racing, I don't have a race wheel set, and the chances of me getting a puncture on the roads out west are high. Do you want to be trying to battle with those airliners every time you need to change a tyre? I certainly don't. So again, there is a market for this and there is a case, lads, but it just entirely depends on whether you believe that the effort it goes to remove those liners is worth the potential reward that comes from being able to ride on essentially the equivalent of 30 psi. They do not simulate a fully inflated tyre, but they do allow you to get home. My advice is, if you're doing your bunch rides, you're not going to be riding home in the bunch with those tyre liners anyway, so just carry a spare tube. But they're the tubeless thoughts. Absolutely stoked with the setup, and yeah, feeling good. So happy days. Hopefully you've loved the video. I'm super proud of this one. It's my favorite one so far. Hopefully you feel the same. Rock on.